All right, to do the felt flower project, you need a piece of felt that is 2.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So 2.5 by 6.5, and the half is the largest part between the two whole numbers. So you just find the longest line. So I'm gonna measure 2.5 this way and put a mark there, and then just do it a few times down the side here. And I'm marking, and I'm just using a regular pencil. You could use chalk if you had it, but the pencil works just fine for what we're doing. Gonna connect this line, so now I know this is 2.5 inches. Gonna mark it this way, 6.5. And you can see I've obviously cut another flower out of this before. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut this out. There's the bell, always helpful to have a bell in the video. Okay. And then the next step is to fold this in half, and you guys have some pins. And so we're gonna fold this in half lengthwise. And on the edge that has the opening, not the folded edge, but the edge that has the two pieces, we're gonna put 3 pins, just right along the edge. 1, 2. So again, make sure that you're pinning on the correct edge, the one where you can open it up and put your finger in there. Okay, so that's that one. Next thing you're gonna need to do is get yourself a needle and thread. And you wanna have a reasonable length of thread to get started. Make sure you tie your knot at the end. Okay, so you have a pretty nice size knot at the end. And then we're going to do the running stitch, which if you recall, is the one where you just go down and come right back up. And we're gonna take our pins out as we go. When you take your pins out, put them back in the felt. Don't just stick them on the table or throw them in your bag. So we're gonna do the running stitch. You want your stitches to be, not gigantic. Like you can see this is like, maybe 1/3 the size of my thumb. Because you need quite a few stitches. This is how we're going to gather up the flower once we're done sewing. So we're gonna do the running stitch, which is just up and down, close to the edge. Remember that you need to sew this close to that double edge. Okay, not on the folded side, but on the double edge side. And pretty close, like 1/4 of an inch maybe away from it. Okay, and then when you get almost to the end here, when you get to the end, what you're gonna do is you're going to, see how I have all these little stitches? We need to gather, oh no, first we need to cut, I apologize. So the next step is we're going to put cuts to make our petals. And when you're cutting towards the stitching line, but don't cut the stitching line. And you wanna cut every 1/4 inch or something like that. So you can see my cuts look like this. This is how we make our petals. And see how far I'm going. I'm going close to the stitching line, but not cutting it because that would destroy what I just did. So we're cutting all the way down. Don't cut through or you'll end up just ruining what you're working on. All right, so I've done my cutting all the way down. And now you'll see that when you gather, you're gonna pull the thread. Don't pull too hard. And it is very important that you had a good knot to start with or it'll come right through and you won't be able to, it won't hold. So when you gather it up like that, remember in class we talked about this, but you're gonna hold it all gathered together and you're gonna take 2 little tiny stitches here and that's gonna keep it gathered. All right. So once you have it sewn, you have your 2 little stitches taken there to keep it gathered. So I don't have to like pull on anything to keep it gathered. Then we're going to pull this with these two last petals. See, these are like the two petals on the ends. Okay. And we're going to put them together and we're going to stitch the end just with a couple, like maybe 4 stitches. Okay, let's do 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that's gonna make it so now it's actually like a circle, okay? And this part here should not be big. It should be no bigger than your fingertip. You should not have a gigantic opening there, okay? So then you have to figure out what colors you want to use. So you can use any of your felt colors. It does not matter what color you choose. And you're going to cut out 2 circles that are larger than the hole in the middle. So they have to be a little bit bigger than this. And I saw some really smart students like tracing the end of this so that they know how big to make it. So you're absolutely welcome to do that. That works great. I know I need to make 2 circles, so I'm gonna cut this and I'm gonna sort of fake it. But you guys, if you're not very good at cutting and you're not very good at estimating sizes, don't just guess. Like measure it or use something to trace or draw, maybe if you want to draw something on it so that you have something so that you can use it as a guideline. If you're not very good at guessing, don't guess, okay? Because I see a lot of felt confetti all over the tables when people who don't have a lot of skill with the scissors get going. It ends up just being chaos, okay? And then remember that pieces this big could be used later on, so you might want to hold on to it. Okay? So for the, this is going to be the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the running stitch, and my needle's still attached. Now, if you ran out of thread, just get a new piece. Totally fine. Tie a knot, get a new piece. If you still have thread, you can just keep going. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing basically a running stitch. So I'm coming all the way up and I'm going all the way down, and I'm making small stitches on top and large stitches on bottom. Okay? Small stitches on top and large stitches on bottom. So you'll just be able to see like little tiny, I'll show you in a second. Hang on, I'm not there yet. I don't have anything to show you. But you should just see like little tiny dents where the stitches are. See how if I pull on that, you can see where the stitch is. So little tiny dents where the stitches are, but it shouldn't be like giant stitching. And you know, here's the thing, you make one, turns out not so great. I mean, you can probably still get all your points as long as you follow the directions. That's the key. And then if you need to, you can make a second one because you want it to be prettier, or you want to make one for a gift for somebody or whatever. Okay, so little stitches, you can see just tiny indentations. All right, so that's the front. Now my thread is running out, so I'm going to tie a knot and I'll be back. Okay, so I got myself a new thread. I decided to get something lighter so you could see it a little better. And now I'm going to come up from underneath and I'm going to attach my button. And you can put any button you want. It could be shank, it could be 2-hole, it could be 4-hole, doesn't matter. And just remember, you guys know how to sew buttons, so you're going to sew at least 3 times through each one. Now this isn't going to be on clothing, so we don't really have to worry about the wrapping it around part, unless you just want to be totally legitimate. Okay, so I went 3 times through each hole. And now my thread is here, and I'm going to go ahead and start. So I have the front done. The front is complete. And now I'm going to put the closer on the back. This is what's going to seal it up and make all the ugly stuff disappear. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the whip stitch for this one. And we're just going to do that by taking a little bit of fabric from the pink and a little bit of fabric from the purple, and making sure we're making, see how it's a little bit of pink and a little bit of purple on my needle there? Pull it all the way through. A little bit of pink, a little bit of purple. Pull it all the way through. Okay, and we're gonna go all the way around. And this is gonna like hide all the ugly stuff. And it's okay if you can see your stitching, because this is the back. So it doesn't matter if you see it. It is like a diagonal stitch. The whip stitch is often used to finish things like this, to be like the last step, to finish things up, close things up. Oftentimes you'll use it if you're making a pillow, to close up the pillow after you stuff it. Okay, so all the way around. Now the very last step that we're gonna do. All right, so when you're ready to, when you finished the whip stitch around, if you have thread left, you can absolutely keep going. If you don't have thread left, you can get a new piece. And then you're gonna get your little bar, and this is a pin back. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna stitch through each of these 3 holes. So we're gonna do the whip stitch again. And remember, you guys, this is the back. It doesn't have to be the most amazingly beautiful thing you've ever seen in your whole life. It can be okay looking. So see how I did the whip stitch? I went through the purple and then I went through the pin, and I'm gonna go through, whoops, come back camera. I'm gonna go through each hole 3 times. So the first time, I'm going through 3 times on that hole. And then you have to kind of flip over and go to the other side. I'm just trying to fix this because it got caught around the pedal, and I'm sure that'll happen to you too. And if it doesn't, you're definitely more organized than I am, and that is great. Okay. And then for my 3rd time around. Okay. Now, for the second one, we're going to turn this and we're going to go through it from this side instead of this side. So on the first one, I went through from this side. On the second one, I'm going to go through from the other side so that my pin back doesn't sit like this. Okay, I want to flatten it out. So I'm going to do 3 more stitches here. Okay, and then we're going to go back to the other side. Okay, that's my 3rd one. And then we're going to go back to the other side. See, it's on that side, this side, and then I'm going to put the 3rd one on this side again. And it really, you know, you need to make sure you do this in a pretty sturdy fashion, because if you don't, your pin back will fall off. And then when Grandma is wearing your beautiful flower lapel pin that you made her, it's gonna just fall right off. And that will be very embarrassing for Grandma at her event, okay? So I've done 1, 2, 3, each hole, this side, that side, this side, alternating as I go. And then I'm gonna tie the same knot that we've been using over and over again, 1, 2, 3 times around. Pull it through. And then, as I always do, taking an extra little stitch just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then we snip it off. And we can close up our pin. And look, it's ready to go.